Welcome to another episode of the Theater Room Deep Dives. Today we're doing a little bit of a throwback for us called The Fast and the Furious. We're going back to the very first one. It showed up on the wheel. We will spin the wheel again at the end of this episode. I watched the movie. It's kind of nice to go back and see some of these old school stuff. I'm sure you've seen the movie recently as well. I'm ready to dive into this. Have you watched Fast and Furious anytime in the recent past?
Yeah, I went back and watched it last week, and it doesn't disappoint.
It doesn't. It holds up very well. We'll get into very specific details about it.
The fact that movie spawned 9, 10, 11 sequels, whatever we're up to at this point, and it became a $1 billion franchise is fucking mind-boggling.
It's honestly hard to even watch when we saw Fast X and Fast, 9 and all those. It's hard to even remember that they came from this. This is the granddaddy. You know what I mean?
It's a movie with no dialogue.
Such a different movie, 100%.
There's no back and forth dialogue. It's just one-liners.
It took itself.
Entire movie
that's the biggest thing.
One-liners.
It took itself so seriously for back when it came out. When did this one come out? I forgot to even look it up. Hold on.
No, it's got to be 2001, 2002, somewhere around there.
I remember. You remember back in the day when you would go to the mall and every now and then, if you were lucky enough, some person would ask you to come watch a trailer and give your feedback.
Yeah,
and you could get like $5 for it. I remember this was a movie that I saw the trailer for and being like, "That fucking looks stupid." Here we are. Here we are so many years later. This came out in June 22nd of 2001.
Yeah, that's about right because I was a senior in high school, or I just finished on my junior year of high school.
It ranked number one at the box office. It earned over $40 million. We're talking a $40 million first movie became a $1 billion superhero franchise, basically. Unbelievable. Vin Diesel is still riding the coattails of the very first Fast and Furious. He wasn't even the main character in the first movie. He was a big part of it.
Well,
but
he's a co-main. I think co-main.
Co-main, sure. Co-star, okay. This is young Vin Diesel. He just had Pitch Black.
Yeah.
And Pitch Black. I mean, he had some small roles before that Italian movie. I forget what it was called now.
Yeah, the gangster movie.
Yeah.
He's got one of the most badass speeches ever, though, in that gangster movie.
You talking about the fight?
The 500 men?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. 500 fights or whatever.
It's funny because when he first started just talking about that movie in particular, the Knockaround Guys, I think it was
Knockaround Guys, that's what it was, yeah.
At that point, he had a lot of small roles in various movies, Boiler Room, the Knockaround Guys, and he always kind of stole the show with just these quick, tiny roles that he had.
Yeah, because even in Boiler Room,
he was not a main character, not a co-star. He was a secondary character.
He was like a third character. But he does the Wall Street.
Yeah, basically, the sale on the phone. Yep. And then even and what was it? Saving Private Ryan, which a lot of people forget he was even in.
Yeah,
he was again a great character in the movie. He's one of the more emotional characters, but he's not a major player.
Oh, you know what? No, yeah, he wasn't Saving Private. I'm thinking of Band of Brothers.
He may have been in Band of Brothers too. Who knows? But no, he was in.
Tom Hardy was in. Tom Hardy was in Band of Brothers.
But then he did Pitch Black.
Yeah,
and even you could argue in Pitch Black, even the very first Pitch Black, he wasn't the main character. It was the pilot. It was the rest of the crew, and he was just kind of the antagonist the whole time.
Yeah, it stole the show.
It was so awesome that they now built a franchise in the Pitch Black world.
And we're getting a fourth Chronicles of Riddick, right?
Yep. Yeah, not Chronicles of Riddick. Let's be clear now. It's just Riddick.
It's just Riddick.
We don't chronicle anything anymore.
But getting back
to the Fast and the Furious. I mean, basically, the Fast and the Furious is the history of Vin Diesel.
So let me ask you a question: are you a car guy?
Not really. No. Okay. I'm a car guy in the sense that I don't want to have to worry about the car breaking down. I want to get to where I got to go.
Gotcha. So I grew up as a car guy.
Okay.
My uncle builds hot rods. I used to work for him in his shop. I used to have an 85 Z28 Camaro with a massive motor in it.
I don't even know what that means.
3 motors in that car. So
I don't even know what that means.
I may or may not have done some slightly nefarious racing style things before.
Okay.
I think the statute of limitations is up on that from 30 years ago, so I think I should be all right. But yeah, so like this coming out at a time when I was 17, 18 got me juiced up. I'm not gonna lie, it did get me juiced up.
Well, listen, I'm not a car guy, but I will admit that anytime I go to a Fast and Furious movie, when I get back in the car afterwards, I'm holding the wheel at the top. I'm holding my shift, even though it's not a manual. I'm holding it like as if I'm shifting constantly. But let me ask you, so you're a car guy, so before we get into the nitty gritty, let me ask you this question. You know how to drive a manual, right?
Yeah.
Do you have to constantly shift gears even if you're already at your top speed that you're driving?
No. This is the Rocky IV syndrome.
It's like ridiculous.
Where Rocky gets in his Ferrari and it's a 4-gear Ferrari Testarossa, and he shifts it in 97 fucking times.
It's nuts. They do that throughout the Fast and Furious franchise. So if I wasn't somebody who had a brain, and I just watched the Fast and Furious movies and had it say, okay, let me learn how to drive by watching these movies, I would assume that in every car you drive, no matter the situation, you're always shifting up. Doesn't matter what it is, you're just shifting up. If you need more speed, it's almost like, if you want to activate the NOS, you flick a switch in the car, and then you shift up. If you
the real main character of Fast and Furious is NOS.
If you want to hit a turn, you pull the e-brake and you just shift. You gear shift up every single time. You just gear shift up, no matter what.
Shifting downshifting, as it's called, helps you get a quick burst of speed to try and get past.
Oh, see, I don't know that. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I do is just see them constantly moving that.
It's also terrible for your transmission. So,
oh, no wonder these cars don't last. Yeah. Thankfully, these cars basically barely last a movie. So. Let's get into it. We're going into the deep dive here. This is full-blown spoilers. I mean, the movie came out in 2001, so I don't think I have to warn anybody.
20 years old.
This is basically the same as the Titanic. If you don't know how it ends, I don't know what to tell you, dude. Go get out from under the rock you're in and go watch some TV. All right. Now, just before we even get into the actual details of this movie, just for reference, if you like Point Break, you're basically gonna like the Fast and the Furious. It's essentially
it's Point Break
car version of Point Break.
Yeah,
it's almost
it's Point Break
the same story. It was inspired by Point Break, and that's like a legit thing. So it's basically the whole quick plot of it all is undercover cop joins in with a group that they suspect is performing these heists. Turns out they are, because we all kind of knew it was obvious from the beginning. And
LA street racers.
Yeah. And he basically falls in love with the life that they lead, gains some relationships with them, and by the end, he's basically a full-blown thief as well. That's not how Point Break ends. That's how this movie ends. So we're going to start right off the bat. This is a Fast and Furious staple. It was established right in the very first movie. You start off with a heist. It's a heist with cars, doing stunts. And my first note right away is that the most unbelievable stunt in the entire movie is done right in the beginning, practically, with one of the thief cars driving between the wheels of a semi-truck.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big stunt. Comparing to Fast X and all these other movies with submarines,
listen, they had a much smaller budget on this one.
Crazy. It's just
we have to give them.
It really blew my mind that was the big moment, and I'm like, damn, it's the first 3 minutes of the movie, But I mean, the opening like heist to me was pretty fun. You know what I mean? It feels way more intense. It's clearly more practical effects than CG heavy like the later movies are.
Yeah,
and you really feel it. Even now watching it, you still feel it.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna pull up an image of this crew here.
The fact that it's just the robbery scene in the beginning is so absurd to me in so many different ways, because there's like 20 different easier ways to pull that truck over. and rob him, and they pick literally the most absurd way to do it with 4 Honda Civics and harpoon guns.
Well, I mean, they're driving Honda Civics with harpoon guns.
With harpoon guns
to stop a semi truck.
Yeah. So it's just, but that's what leads you to be like, okay, this is Fast and Furious. This is what it is. They drive the street racers and blah blah blah.
Yeah. I mean, and again, right off the bat, it's almost like you're told immediately this movie is going to have to do with underground cars.
Yeah,
black market cars is probably a better way to say it. Every single car is black. It's like the standard bad guy car. They're all black with tinted windows. You can't see shit. But we're not supposed to believe.
And all have the same Yokohama street racing tires.
I don't know what that means. That
has been drilled into our heads by every FBI agent that comes onto the screen.
What's hysterical too is that the thing they're stealing is not money. It's not some sort of mineral that's hard to find or gold. It's not some like diamonds or jewels. It's DVD players.
TVs.
That's what they're stealing. DVD players, CD players, electronics, consumer goods that you can buy for $20 in Walmart right now. They were risking their lives.
But back then, back in the early 2000s, a flat screen TV was worth like $15,000.
Right.
DVD players were like $300-$400 a pop.
Again, though, but you got to keep comparing to the new stuff. Back then, they're trying to steal $15,000 worth of DVD players. Now they're doing $1 million heists to try and clear their name from international spy lists. Who would have thought? If you told me in 2001,
if you told me in 2001 when I was getting out of this movie that this was going to create $1 billion franchise where they were going on heists that would take out the drug cartels in Brazil, I would call you an insane person.
That there would be lore where the son of a drug lord comes back to haunt Vin Diesel's family. I just can't. I really just can't. Like, it's just it's amazing how different the movies have become.
Yeah.
Speaking of just how different they become, within the first 20 minutes, shortly after the heist, we meet our main characters, right? So we meet Paul Walker, the late Paul Walker.
In my opinion, the greatest scene in the movie.
Which is when he goes to the sandwich shop?
Yeah, when he goes to the sandwich / repair shop.
Let me blow the viewers' minds real quick. Did you remember that Vin Diesel and his sister owned a sandwich shop?
Repairs.
Sorry,
it's the convenience store
/
garage.
No, garage. That's how they say it in the movie. Garage. They owned it. That's how they made their money. Besides, stealing DVD players.
Yeah.
And Paul Walker walks up. He orders the famous tuna fish sandwich.
The tuna sandwich
that he loves so much from Vin Diesel's sister.
Now, I gotta ask you a question because we're not gonna repeat the line that's said. Right by
the F-bomb.
The F-bomb.
Yeah. That's my note too. This 20 minutes drop an F-bomb.
How jarring is it to hear someone say that in a movie?
What's funny is that it's not so it was never a big deal. You know what I mean?
No.
In our world, right, growing up, we heard that constantly. And when people told us you weren't allowed to say it anymore, it was like, all right, it's not any of our favorite words. Who cares? We won't say it anymore. So it's almost like doesn't cross my mind that it's not said until I hear it said. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, Jesus.
Whoa!
When he said that, I paused and I wrote down a little note. We got an I don't even know how to say F-bomb, I guess, in the first 20 minutes of the movie. FAGGOT. I'm not going to say it out loud.
We're not going to say it out loud. But when he goes...
Not Vin Diesel. Vin says it to Paul Walker.
No one likes the tuna here. Why don't you go down to Fat Burger and get yourself a burger and fries for $2.95? F word. I'm like, whoa!
It would hurt my ears, and we're not sensitive,
I grew up with that word. I grew up with people using that word all the time, and
I was so surprised, man.
It was so surprising, and I was just like, wow, I can't believe that again. This became $1 billion franchise.
This is the crew. This is who we meet in the at the sandwich shop.
At the sandwich shop, they all pull up in a different car,
right?
In sync. They all drive in sync everywhere they go together.
One thing that I always thought was hysterical was that not only do they drive in sync, but in the Fast and Furious world in particular, when they all are pulling up to a sandwich shop, a gas station, just a store, it's never like a slow roll to the parking spot. They fucking fly in and they hit those brakes hard. You have to screech those tires to let people know that you just parked in that spot. It cracks me up every single time. It's the most dangerous form of driving I've ever seen in my life.
And you have to see whoop, 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 all of them in succession with each other because they're such skilled drivers, which should have been Brian's first clue that these are probably the crew that you're looking for.
Yeah, almost immediately it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
We do get in this scene too our first fist fight, so we get to see what the fight choreography is going to look like in these movies.
And we get Vin Diesel's first line of "You embarrass me."
Yeah. what does he say to Paul Walker again? Paul Walker's like, oh, I work for
Yeah.
whatever. And he's like, yeah,
No, he
you
says
just
to
got
Paul
fired.
Walker, he goes, you just started at Harry's
Oh,
shop,
yeah.
right? Or he goes, you work at Harry? He goes, I just started. He goes, you were just fired.
You were just fired. Then he walks away.
He
Meanwhile, Paul Walker just goes back to Harry's shop and nothing ever happens. I mean,
never gets fired.
Harry, maybe, I think he says to him, like, oh, you realize how much crap you got me in? And he's like, don't worry about it. All right, no problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember
like, you can't do this to me. Toretto goes out there and races, and all these kids come in here and spend all their money.
Right, which is something we never saw.
No.
Right, we saw Toretto race. We see him race shortly, but we don't actually see the result of him racing. We don't. No one cares that he raced. All we know is that he almost gets caught by the cops in that moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll get to the racing scene in a second, but he does hold court pretty well. So Brian turns to Harry, and he's like, because we get that weird scene of Brian, like testing out his Mitsubishi Eclipse,
and he needs more NOS,
and he needs more power. So he needs, and we get our first introduction to the greatest character ever in Fast and Furious.
Yeah, Nos. It's the kryptonite to Vin Diesel Superman. It's the spinach to every character's Popeye. Nos. You need to get something done. You need to outrun an explosion, a nuclear bomb. You need to capture a satellite that can pinpoint your spot from anywhere in the world. One thing is required. Nos. 100%.
It helped Roman and Tez get to space.
Get to space. Yep. All you got to do is a couple canisters, right? I mean, in this movie too, they're dropping down like, oh, I put $20,000 in the car, put $50,000 in the. Everyone's got just thousands of dollars to spend. I'm like, Jesus.
Well, they win it all street racing.
Oh yeah, of course, because street racing was such a big thing back then. And speaking of street racing, this brings us to our first street race of the movie. Well, I'm sorry, I skipped a scene. At this point, we find out Brian is 100% a cop. He gets arrested basically in broad daylight, really rough, and everyone he works for is already sure that the Toretto family are the ones performing these.
Well, no. He gets. They don't reveal he's a cop till after the street race.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I jumped around. So we do get to the first race, and we get our first cameo from a musician.
Because remember, once he's like, "I need Nas," and Harry's like, "You're gonna blow yourself up with all that, kid."
Yeah.
Then they pull right into the street race.
That's a good impression, man. Of Harry. Oh God, it's now. I would give Fast 11. I would give him all the credit in the world if in the next movie. Let me pull up a picture of the family again. If in the next movie we find out that the person who's bankrolling Jason Momoa's character and Alan Richardson's character is Harry and the guy who's hidden behind Paul Walker's character here that just disappears, Lance.
No, I'm sorry, that's not Lance. That's not Lance. What's his name? Lance is Johnny Tran's cousin.
Right. Johnny Tran's over here
with the snakeskin pants.
No, the one behind Mia.
Yeah, the one behind Mia. I can't remember his name now.
Because for all the talk of family in the Toretto world,
you never see him again.
He disappears after this movie, and he never comes back.
Never comes back. Never saw him again.
So make him the mastermind. Make him the reason why
Gizmo
was going after him, because that would be worth it.
I see now. I think that it should be Lance. We'll get to that later on, but
I mean, I'm okay if it is Lance. I just bring back some of these characters we forgot. I want it to be Verone. Verone's got to come back in a big way.
I don't think he's going to come back though.
I know, but that's annoying. He should, man. The actor is blowing up over on Yellowstone. They should bring him back.
There's a couple of reasons why. He's blown up on Yellowstone, but the other problem is that there's no real reason for him to come back unless he's going after Paul Walker.
Well, Tyrese. He can go after
Tyrese. No one cares if he goes after Tyrese, bro.
We all care. Okay, Tyrese is the glue that holds this whole universe together. Come on now.
Leon. His name is Leon.
Leon, and this shows you how much he's really not that important in the movie, because I could not remember his name for the life of me. But bring him back. Bring them all back. Bring them all back from the dead. They've been doing it anyway. So going back to the race, though, one thing that stood out to me when they got to this race was that it was amazing to me that they actually had the wherewithal to put in moments where they were trying to hear where the cops were. They had the police scanners going to make sure they don't get caught. Again, like in future movies, they just race. No one really looks around. They're just kind of like, oh, we're going to race from their back and, No cops ever show up. But in this movie, and probably I think Too Fast, Too Furious, they make it a point to kind of explain that the cops are not going to come because they're aware of where they are.
Yeah.
And we get our first.
Well, actually, they explained it. They explained it in Tokyo Drift also.
Well, Tokyo Drift doesn't really exist in the world.
Sure, it does.
Yeah,
because they brought all those characters back in like Fast 7.
Yeah, brought him back is a very loose term. They were there for 3.5
They're the
minutes.
team that invents rocket ships now. Like, what are we talking about?
I know Lucas from fucking Tokyo Drift suddenly is a space engineer.
Listen, we're gonna get to Tokyo Drift.
If we'll get there eventually.
The right way, but
we will get there eventually. But
I was gonna say, they in the first few movies they do like
they keep it grounded. They legit, not pun intended. They keep it grounded. You know what I mean?
But the best part about this is they meet up at one spot with 500 people.
Yeah, I mean, like there's no way you're hiding this
meetup of all time.
Apparently, nobody in the buildings around them cares about all the noise that's happening.
And that's not even where the race is.
Right, they have to drive somewhere else.
They go to a secondary location. Yeah. That's just where they figure out like the logistics of the race.
Right.
And you have all of like the separate gangs. You have the Asian guys, you have the Mexican guys, the black guys.
It's the street racing cafeteria.
Yeah, Toretto's crew. It's like a prison yard with street racing. Everybody's getting ready, and we meet one of my favorite characters.
Before we get to the musician of the hour.
Yeah,
one of the things that stood out that I made a note of too was that so you get all the girls are dressed like they just want to get laid, like right there on the street.
Like it's a club.
That's my biggest problem, right? Clearly, people are doing drugs and drinking and whatever right on the street. I don't care. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that every car that pulls up is driving through this crowd of people way too fast, and no one gets hit.
No one, dad, bro.
No mirror like clips an elbow. No one no one's knee like hits the side of a car.
They're driving in there so quickly.
It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You put so much time and effort into making these cars look awesome. I'm like, someone's gonna scratch it out by accident. There are people barbecuing over there. Stop driving so fast. Slow down. Where's the dedicated parking area? That's what I want to know.
They all have them. You see them. They all back into their spots. Remember, Brian backs in. And he pops the hood.
The spots are covered with people. And it's like they just know that a car's coming. So let me just get
everybody move. Cars coming in. And everybody just it's like when you're playing street hockey as a kid. You go car and everybody lifts the nets and everybody works the team.
Somebody yelled it. Somebody was like, car.
Yeah, somebody yelled it. Yeah. So when Brian rolls in, everybody's like car, and they just gotta separate and give him a spot to park his Mitsubishi Eclipse with fresh NOS.
I like how he rolls in and then he leans on the car like, yeah, I'm badass. You smell that NOS from a mile away. But then we do get, moving on to the best cameo in every single one of these movies, and he never comes back. And it's a shame because Fire Festival ruined his life.
Yes.
But we get Ja Rule.
Ja Rule himself.
Comes in.
Well, he also became super Christian.
Well, he comes in, he basically hams up the screen. And then I guess he shows up later in the movie, and that's it. Never comes back.
I don't even think. No, he doesn't show up later in the movie. That's it.
I think he shows up later on.
No, it's the one scene.
Oh no, yeah. I guess it's the only scene now. I'm thinking about it.
All we get is Monica.
For again, a scene that just stands out for how it wouldn't happen today. You know what I mean? Where the Monica basically says you can basically bang me no matter what, but if you win, you can bang her too. And then he loses, and she's like, and she drops an N-bomb and tells him to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
And I felt so bad for him though. Ja Rule's a good actor. I felt bad for him.
I know.
I wanted him to get
something, and she didn't deliver. You know.
We also get our first real introduction to the wonder of NOS.
Well, wait. One of my other favorite lines of all time is in this part where Dom is sitting there talking to a couple of girls, and the lady pulls up and she goes, "I smell skanks." What the fuck was
Michelle
that?
Rodriguez perfected the tough act, like a tough person act, way back then, dude. She's been playing the same character ever since, even in Dungeons and Dragons. She should just have her characters named Letty in every movie she's in.
Oh my
That's
god,
basically
it's
what she
so
plays.
amazing.
But
It's such
see,
an amazing line. I smell skanks.
what I like about that line, about that scene, is right after she says that, and the girls basically look at her and like, "We don't want to fuck with her." Is Vin Diesel goes, "I was just talking to him."
I was just talking. What?
Yeah, I was just talking.
She's like, yeah, whatever, talking. You know.
So then they decide to race for
Brian's car.
Right,
They inspect Brian's car to make sure he's legit. They're like, pop the hood. The professor gets in there, and he's got
he shows his
tech and a NOS system with the what is that? What is that? And he explains the whole setup to them.
He shoves his head into the engine and basically takes a big whiff, and then is able to describe in detail everything. And that's our first instance of Vin Diesel going, "But not a bad way to spend $20,000."
Yeah.
I'm like, if he has $20,000 to just throw into the trunk or the engine of his car, why is he buying tuna sandwiches from your shitty sandwich shop?
Because he spent $20,000 on NOS systems.
So he has his remaining $10, 5 weights for gas, and the other 5
I got $3.75 left for a tuna sandwich with no crusts.
I mean, this is a different time, right? You can buy a lot more food for a lot less money.
Absolutely. So,
but then that leads us to our first race. We got our first bit of CGI, which is done so well though. During this time.
They have the setup first where they're like, all right, 10 grand a man, this, that, and the other thing. And Paul Walker's like, I got the pink slip to my car. Winner gets it, title free and clear.
They're just giving away cars. I'm like,
racing for slips, baby.
He spent $20,000 for the engine, and he's willing to risk it all in one night for one race, which never happens anyway because he just drives his car that he just lost away at the end of this anyway. So I never understood that. Like that always confused me. I'm not into the racing culture.
Well, the cops show up.
Toretto knows not his car.
Toretto knows he's going to get his car back. Come on, it's Toretto.
Well, that's true because he never had his car.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into the inaccuracies of all this.
The one-liners in this movie, man. This movie, listen, there's been 10 of these movies, right? 11 if you count Hobbs and Shaw. There's going to be at least 13 if you count Hobbs and Shaw 2. And this movie still is in my opinion the best because we're only a half hour into the movie, and there's already so many quotable lines that people still 100%. Say today. I hear constantly, But they get to the race. We get our first instances.
They go to the secondary location.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and this is where you have the girl has to come out and throw the flag down. And again,
they have to block off all the intersections.
Listen to the police.
Wait for a homicide to come onto the scanner. They're like, someone died. We're good to go.
I've never seen people more excited that somebody got killed, got murdered.
The pizza guy tries to deliver a pizza.
Right. He doesn't report anything. He just drives away.
But that's also one of my favorite lines ever. That's also the director of the movie. You know that?
Oh, I didn't know that. No, I didn't.
The guy that plays the pizza guy is the director of the movie. And he's like, get out of here, pizza boy. Not now. And he's like, goddamn street racers.
Goddamn. Like, this is just a nightly occurrence.
Like they're just a menace to society, these street racers.
He's just like, son of a bitch. I got to find a way around now.
These damn street racers again.
What's funny though is to your point, they go to the secondary location where the race actually starts
with 500 people.
All the people go with them. Only 4 cars go because we only see the racers. We don't see any other cars except for whoever's blocking the roads.
Yeah, but the guys blocking the roads and the race cars.
I guess they just walked over. Like, I don't know. I guess it was announced the race is going to be in an hour. Start heading over, and they start all the women in their high heels and their asses hanging out start walking over.
It's the most coordinated street race of all time.
It's crazy. Every road is empty, right? Because I'm assuming it's the middle of the night. I guess because how else is there no traffic at all in California? And then we get the one girl who I've always been curious. Are you nominated ahead of time to walk out and start the race, or is there some sort of almost like Ring Girl?
That is a Fast and Furious staple, though.
It is, but I want to know more. I want a movie like Magic Mike, but about the race, the race
girls.
Yeah,
the race starter girls.
My thing is it like the Ring Girls in boxing? There's just an organization of models.
Becky, you're up, bitch. Get out there.
Right.
Hike your skirt up and give it a go.
Is it like a madam? You know what I mean? Like a bunch of escorts, and the madam's like, "Oh, I need a girl for tonight. We're gonna start the race. You don't have to do anything. Just go start the race." And then the dad in me kicks in again because I'm like, after you drop your little handkerchief, get out of the way. These cars are driving fast. That's not safe. That's not safe.
You're way too safe of a driver to be watching Fast and Furious
Oh
movies.
yeah, no. That's why I live vicariously through the movies. I'm never going to drive my car into space. You know what I mean? I'm never going to try and catch somebody flying in the air by driving my car over a bridge and jumping out of the windshield. You know, I'm not going to do that stuff.
Exactly. Oh man, the race starts. We get the first instance of early 2000s CGI.
You know what though?
Which is
There's something to be said though when the CGI was not strong, right? Like now you can make basically anything you want with CG and it'll be believable, right? Back then you really couldn't. It stood out, the CGI. But the way they do it here, it forced them to just keep it minimal. You know, they used it for the cars flying by, some shots of turns, whatever. But they did a good job. I really felt like they did a good job of cutting to the actual actors in the car, doing the moves. It made you feel like the whole race was really happening. You know, it's way more intense that way. I didn't feel in Fast X and Fast 9. I don't think I ever felt any kind of like fear of something happening when they're racing or driving like that, like you still feel when you watch Fast and Furious 1. It holds up so well. So well.
Yeah. And the fact that this is like that this race takes place and it's like a minute and a half long.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be 10 seconds because they dragged it out so
well, you know,
they're all 10-second cars.
There's somebody online too where if you do you just a quick search on like YouTube, you can find people who do the math and like the speed they're driving at for the amount of time they're driving in the movie. It's like their race was like 65 miles long. Like it wasn't it wasn't 10 seconds. Like it's, you know, like it's supposed to be 500 yards or whatever, right? Or you know, it's not supposed to be long.
Quarter mile.
That's right. I live a quarter mile time. It's supposed to be a quarter mile, but instead they drive for so long at 120 miles an hour. You're like, get the fuck out of here, dude.
Yeah.
But it's good though. It's fun. It still holds up, dude. When I'm watching it, man, I love the race scenes. I really do. Except for the fact that they're shifting gears every half second. You just constantly just see them up and down, nos, up and down.
And then we get the pivotal scene where Brian hits his nos fogger.
I love
takes off like a bat out of hell, like ooh, right?
Yeah.
And Vin Diesel lays us the line, "Too soon, Buster."
Too soon, Buster. with his Groot delivery. Too soon, Buster.
And you see Vin waits, hits his, takes the race at the last second. Ja Rule's screaming, Monica! As soon as he sees Paul Walker pass him, he's like, no! Menage! That's my favorite part.
Paul Walker's car starts to basically fall apart.
Yeah, like
he just ignores it. It starts warning him that it's going to explode.
Panel falls out.
I never understood that. It doesn't come back in
sense
play
whatsoever.
It's not, there's no reason for it. It's not like it's like a MacGuffin that or what do you call it, Chekhov's floor panel and comes back into play at the end of the movie. There's zero reason why it happens. It's just there because it looks cool to create some sparks.
That's it.
Then at the end, we get Vin Diesel with the classic line where he's basically Paul Walker. First, Paul Walker comes out and he basically tries to. I guess you could say he tries to shame Vin Diesel by telling him that, dude, I almost had you.
No, he did it with the giddiness of somebody that just had his first race. And he's just like, I almost had you, dude. Man, that was awesome. And Vin was just like, you never had your car.
I love that when he walks by the one guy and he's like, you almost had me? Like, this fucking guy, you know? So good, man. I tell you what, look, Vin Diesel... he's easy to make fun of these days, you know what I mean, with just his love of life essentially, but the guy had a charisma to him, you know, like he really did. Like we said before, in his small roles in the movies before this, in Pitch Black, and even in this one, he really could draw you in to the character and to the script.
Even later on, like in Fast 5 when they're in Brazil and he has the showdown with The Rock and he's like, this is Brazil.
Yeah,
you know, he's holding court amongst these,
I feel like his ego,
international street racers.
Yeah, his ego may have taken over the last however many years. Once the movie started hitting $1 billion, I feel like it's getting to his head a little bit. But you got to give the guy credit, man. In his early movies, it was fun to watch him do his thing. And in this, he's never better, I feel like, in his career than he is in this scene where he's giving his little speech and just basically making Brian look like an asshole. and just owning the crowd. You know what I mean?
He plays the big tough guy better than anybody
100%.
in his early days.
100%.
You know, and that's what this was. This was him just eating up scenery, being like, "He almost had me." And he's looking at the guy. He's like, "Me? You never had your car." And the whole crowd's just like, "Oh!"
I mean, talk about a line from 2001 on. I say this, my friends say it.
Yeah,
you never
absolutely.
had, no matter what they say. Yeah, all right. You never had your car. All right, like it's just. It lives in the pop culture world. You know what I mean? It's just
granny
it's going
shifting
to be
instead of double clutching like you should.
I don't even know what that means, and I still say it in my,
no one knows what
daily
it
life.
I don't think it's a real thing.
No one knows what it means. If you don't know what it means, then it definitely is not a real thing.
Oh.
And then we get the cops show up.
The cops show up. Everybody breaks out and runs. 500 people.
Not one person gets arrested. Cops, out of the 500 people, 490 of them are on foot, and 460 of them are in high heels, and nobody gets arrested.
And at least 50 people have to get in their cars, start them, and drive out of there without hitting anybody.
What I always love, though, is like, so, you know, what made me laugh is that we see them, the people who are blocking off the roads are listening to CB radios, trying to make sure that like nothing, you know, the cops don't come, they don't get surprised. And then they don't realize the cops are coming until they've already turned the corner and you can see the sirens and hear the, obviously the lights. You know? Then all of a sudden they're on the radio, cops, get bounce. Like,
first off, the best part is that Leon yells cops into a walkie-talkie that maybe two other people have.
Right.
And the whole crowd's just like, cops!
Immediately the entire crowd knows, and they all bounce. We get Vin Diesel somehow, so he got there in a car, right? And now all of a sudden he's on foot. So Paul Walker
he parks the car. He parks the car.
Why did he park the car though? Oh, that's right. He was
try and dip out on the cops because they're looking for his car, right? So, but apparently the cops know exactly who he is because they pull past him and they're like, Dominic Toretto. Stop right there.
Yeah.
So the cops know exactly who this guy is. By first and last name.
No part of them thinks to themselves, maybe we should get some backup and just surround him so he can't get away. Instead, let's just give away our position and just let him know we're here. We see where he is. And then there's enough time for Paul Walker to come up and Vin Diesel to get in Paul Walker's car and Paul Walker to turn the car around and then drive away. Which I was like, wow.
He evades the cops. Gave up. He evades the cops. And they wind up in Koreatown.
For some reason.
Or Little Japan. I'm not sure.
You know what? I think the roads were still blocked off, and that's how you had. That's basically the way the pizza guy had it.
And
the pizza guy went to the same spot.
They get surrounded by the Asian gang, the Asian drivers.
Literally like sharks. I mean, they basically come out in a circle around them because they smell blood in the water. Or nos in the streets.
And another great line is, well, we had a deal just got even longer.
I love, though, you know, the kind of like the tiny little lore building there where Johnny Tran was like, didn't we have a deal? You stay out of my territory. I stay out of yours. Like, so clearly there's a history there, you know. But my favorite, though, is like, so Johnny Tran leaves and then for, you know, whatever reason, sends his boys back to shoot the car.
His Lance back. Yeah. Lance in the snakeskin pant.
The absolute best line reading of my entire life is Vin Diesel going, Nas! And then they just dive away.
The car goes up.
Green flames, because apparently Nas burns green. And then we cut to the next scene where they just call a cab. Vin Diesel could have just called a cab the whole time.
Well, Paul Walker says to him, he's like, hey, so what was that all about? And he's like, it's a long story. He's like, well, we got about a 20-mile walk back to wherever the fuck we're going, so you might as well start talking, bro.
Like, they didn't talk at all because they got in a cab and they still didn't know each other. See, now this is so the one note I wrote down here though is why has Johnny Tran not been brought back?
He's dead.
When did he die?
The end of the movie.
He dies at the end of the movie? No.
Yes, it's not Lance that dies, which is why I think Lance should come back.
Okay, well, so then that's fine. If it is him, I didn't think it was him. I thought it was Lance. So
no, that's Johnny Tran that dies. Remember, they take the helmet off him. They're like, oh, because he gets hit on the motorcycle.
When I watched it,
yeah,
I remember getting hit, but for some reason, I didn't think that he died. I thought he just got hurt, like he just got knocked out.
No. Lance is the one that goes over the barricade, goes down the hill, tumbling down the hill. Johnny Tran is the one that gets shot and ran over.
So then Lance is the one who could come back then. So because you don't see a body in these movies, that doesn't mean they're dead. They're coming back.
I mean, absolutely true. They brought back everybody that's died anyway, so
they might as well. I mean, in Hobbs and Shaw, let's not forget, Hobbs and Shaw is in the Fast and Furious world. 100%. Idris Elba's character is half machine, half man.
Yes,
so there's nothing stopping them from taking Lance's character and basically saying that he's been experimented on for the last however many years. Yeah. And he's back as like fucking the Black Kryptonite or whatever, whatever name they want to give him, because they'll just say whatever they want.
So,
but then we get again. So now this is just classic lines. Vin Diesel and Paul Walker go to the house. We find out that you're only allowed to drink Corona in the Toretto household.
But so here's my other favorite part of this whole thing, right? The cops, when they saw Dom, called him out by his full name.
Yes.
Dominic Toretto. Stop right there.
They just knew.
Just knew who he was. You're telling me they don't know where he lives and aren't like, hey, let's go swing by his house where there's a party going on of 50 people. Like candles lit everywhere for some fucking reason.
I understand why Vin Diesel was upset. He's out there, no one knows where he is, and they're throwing a party. I mean, there's people playing video games, play the classic PlayStation on the TV.
Gran Turismo.
Vince is just drinking. Michelle Rodriguez, apparently Vin Diesel or Michelle Rodriguez is mad at Vin Diesel. Letty's mad at him for some reason. And she forces him the moment he gets back to give her a massage, which I was like, what? this guy had a night. You give him a massage. What are you talking about? Like,
Dom, why'd you bring the Buster here? Because the Buster brought me back.
The Buster didn't just tuck tail and run. Oh, I fucking love that line. My favorite little detail, though, and I've always wondered if this is like an improv thing or if it was written in, is him going, you can have any beer in the house. Paul Walker picks one, and he goes, enjoy that one. That's Vincent's. And then Paul Walker just wipes off the top of it because he doesn't want to share the germs. I love that scene.
There's another little part to that scene that I love so much, is that when Dom takes Vince's beer, Vince goes to like run after him, and some girl gets his way and just throws her across the fucking room.
It's a different time, man. It was a different time. When
this just like, get the fuck out. Like, doesn't say anything, just tosses her. She's like, asshole.
Meanwhile, like, they're having a party. Why even bother? I just don't know. I always thought that was funny that they get back to the house and everyone's having a party and they just almost can't understand why Vin Diesel's annoyed. And I'm like, dude, it's his house.
Why are you so mad?
He almost got arrested. Like, you guys are just chilling and hanging out. Like, oh god,
the guy he doesn't even know is the one that saved him.
Right. But everyone's looking at him like, dude, relax, bro. Relax, guy.
The one that brought him back to the fort.
They're all like, you're okay. Calm down. Like, it's just.
Michelle Rodriguez again comes in to say she knows he's upset. She's like, I think you need to go upstairs and give me a massage.
Right. Meanwhile, he's kind of like, I almost got blown up by Green Nos. I got shot at by Johnny Tran. I ran on foot from the cops because I had to hide my car. Then I had to drive with this guy who I don't know for however long before we had to then take a cab. Like, I don't want to give you a massage. I would have actually loved it if he walked in and said, okay, everybody out, and just kicked the entire party out. And basically looked at everybody else and was like, no, Vince, you two, get out. Yeah. Mouse, get out. Turn off the Gran Turismo. Get the fuck out. Or if he smashed the PlayStation out of anger, just like, you're playing Gran Turismo? Are you kidding me?
It's my favorite part when he walks in there, like, Leon's like, Dom, we were just about to come looking for you.
Yeah. While he's laying on a bean. This is how, I mean, you can't get more houses of this.
Picks on his lap, and he picks on his lap. He's like, Dom, we're on our way, you know?
So ridiculous. It's just so ridiculous.
Oh man, it's the beginning of the first 45 minutes of this movie is probably the most classic Fast and Furious. In my opinion, like the movie falls off, takes a big dip after this point.
Well, it slows down, I feel like, because then we got Paul now just basically working for Vin Diesel, and we know that he's undercover, but he's trying to get close to Vin Diesel.
Yeah, because we get the scene right after this where Paul gets arrested. Yes, Ryan gets arrested. They bring him back to a safe house, and they're like, "All right, so what have you learned, officer?"
Yeah, and he's right away. He's like, "Oh no, they didn't do it." They're not doing
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, I don't know. It could be anybody. It could be the Japanese guys. Could be the Mexican guys. I'm not really sure. Blah, blah,
one
blah.
thing I never understood, I might be jumping ahead a little bit here, is that basically Paul Walker goes on the hunt for clues.
Yeah.
He sneaks into Johnny Tran's garage and finds all kinds of DVD players and stuff that he thinks is clearly stolen.
Yeah.
Vin Diesel and Vince catch him in the act.
Well, they catch him breaking into the Mexican guy's place first.
Right. But they never say.
And they all go.
But my point is, though, like, they catch him, and Vin Diesel makes it a point to be like, be careful what you say. You better answer these questions honestly. Are you a cop? Brian, Paul Walker's character, never says I'm not a cop.
No,
he goes, you know what I see? I see the $20,000 or $15 and all this stuff, whatever. Never explains that he's not a cop. And Dom just goes, oh, so you're doing this for race wars?
Yeah.
And then that's what he
says. He goes,
no, but that's the last of it, though.
This is about race wars.
Yeah.
What?
But like, I'm like, so how is that? How did that convince you that he's not a cop? I don't understand. Like, he barely gave an argument, and Vin Diesel just all right.
But it goes to show it goes both ways. Like, Vince was also building this relationship with Brian as Brian was building this relationship with Vince.
Yeah, I guess.
Vince didn't want to believe Dom, rather.
Dom, we keep going back and forth with the names. Dom didn't want to believe.
Dom didn't want to believe that Brian was a cop.
Meanwhile, the real
even though
hero,
Vince is telling him the whole time, the old coyote's telling him the whole time.
The real hero of the movie, Vince, called it from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame that they killed him off in Fast 5. I want him to come back. I like Vince.
Yeah.
I always like this character.
Fast 4, dude.
Fast 5, they kill him. He's in the beginning of Fast 5.
Oh, that's
and then like he's the one who gives him the whole mission that gets Fast 5 going, basically.
No, I think that's Fast 4, isn't it?
No, Fast 4. Well, it depends on the timeline, but Fast 4 is when Vin Diesel and Paul Walker's character are back together again. Both of them are convicts, and that's where Letty dies, and Vin Diesel has to, touch the ground, and then Sherlock Holmes the entire accident.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a whole other movie. We'll get to that one at some point.
We'll get to that one eventually too. But yeah, so at this point, we're on the road. Paul Walker's character Brian, he's working for Vin Diesel. He's building his 10-second car. He finds some beat up old Supra that they're going to turn into the greatest drag car of all time.
Yep.
Meanwhile, trucks are still getting robbed, and the truckers. This is very important.
Yes,
the truckers
comes into play,
taking stuff into their own hands.
The cops are so bad at their job because this crew
FBI
is so good that the truckers just flat out say, we're going to carry weapons and we're going to murder anybody who comes near us, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
They don't put a hold on the deliveries. They don't take any real measures to prevent people from losing their lives. Instead, the cops go, all right, well, I mean, if we don't solve it in time, who cares?
Well, the FBI is up their ass about billing, because he's like, we got to get a solve here. The truckers, they're going to start taking matters into their own hands.
Yeah, well, it's the classic, like, you have like the lieutenant or whoever the captain who's like, I don't care what you got to do, just figure out how to give me a name so I can somebody. And
this leads us to them investigating all the different garages.
Right.
And they find Johnny Tran's stash of random DVD players, and Paul Walker goes engines. Cars with no engines, and Paul Walker goes back.
Another scene that just kind of doesn't mean anything is when Johnny Tran brings that guy in and goes, you see anything wrong with the car? And he goes, nope. And he goes, there's no engines. And then
fills him full of NW40.
Yeah. Pours oil down his face, and then they just leave. It's like there's just no reason for it.
Well, they left to go get the engines. That's what it was.
That's right. So they found the engines. They were just another part. They were about to with the other races.
The guy had the engines and tried to rip off Johnny Tran. You don't rip off Johnny Tran, man.
Because he's not going to notice that the cars he just bought from you don't have engines.
So, now, this is all leading up. This whole movie is leading up to race wars.
Yeah.
They say race wars 1,000 times in this fucking movie.
The whole thing is race wars. That's literally
the whole thing is race wars. But we're going to see how you do race wars. We're going to see about this at race wars. Wait till race wars. Race wars. Right? And then the cops, Billings is tired of waiting. He doesn't care that Brian hasn't found enough evidence yet. He's like, we don't care. We're taking down Johnny Tran. And he's like, but I don't know if it's really Johnny Tran. Just give me a couple more days. You don't have enough days. The truckers are arming themselves. We got to go now. They bust into Johnny Tran.
No one's robbed a truck since the first truck robbery.
No.
Everyone's just doing their own. They're working legitimate jobs. They're at garages and the sandwich shop. So between the opening scene and this point in the movie, however many days have passed, not one truck has been robbed. Nope. But yet the intensity is picking up because those truckers are tired of waiting for the cops.
Tired of harpoon guns and Civics.
Yeah. Harpoon guns and Civics. Oh God.
They arrest Johnny Tran. Turns out all the DVD players were bought legitimately, which I don't know why you would need 600 DVD players sitting in a garage somewhere that you would buy legitimately. Makes no fucking sense.
Again, they should have shown us that Johnny Tran has an electronics store, and that was just his warehouse where he keeps his goods, and he was waiting to bring them over to his store.
We get to Race Wars, where it's supposed to be the pivotal. They built it up to be the pivotal moment in the movie.
Yeah,
and nothing happens at Race Wars. Letty races once.
We see one race. Well, I guess we
see two.
We see two, right? Letty races somebody, and
then Mouse races Johnny Tran. 4 slips, and everybody's telling him, "Dude, you can't bet your dad's car. Stop."
And he's like, "No, I got this. Don't worry."
Yeah.
And I think Brian says that Johnny Tran has $100,000 under the engine of his car because that's just, what you do with $100,000
in the Honda S2000. The dumbest Honda ever made.
And Mouse gets smoked. What I find funny, let's talk about the dad and me coming out again, is Mouse is like, oh, yeah, I'm racing. He walks about a mile to his car because why would he park wherever they made the deal? Drives about 5 feet and then is now ready to race. They didn't drive to a track or anything like that. He just kind of pulled up a little bit and then is ready to go. Johnny Tran pulls up and they're ready to fucking rev in their engines.
Well, Leon was pulling his car up to the racing spot.
No, but my point is, there's people around them. They're surrounded by people. When Brian is talking to him and he's like, yo, there's $100,000 in that car, there's a crowd behind them. No one's watching. No one really cares what's happening here. This is Race Wars. No one's watching the race that's about to happen. And then the only person who knows that Mouse lost is Paul Walker, Letty, and Lance.
Oh, and obviously Johnny Tran, because
of course
he takes off with his car. Now that's his car.
Right.
He races for slips. That's
Race Wars in the middle of the desert.
In the middle of the desert,
leading up to it.
My man Mouse just takes off. The professor just takes off to the middle of who fucking knows where. And now we're stuck with this Johnny Tran, Dom Toretto fight.
Right.
Which I never knocked on nobody.
Can we talk about? So listen, I really do like this movie, right? But Johnny Tran's, the actor who plays Johnny Tran, I can't remember his name, but his line delivery when he's like, "I was arrested in front of my family, embarrassed me in front of my people, whatever." Somebody knocked on to the cops, and then he goes, "And you know what? It was you." I'm like, Jesus Christ! And then he gets his ass beat because Dom does not lose a fight. In any Fast and Furious movie, Dom doesn't lose a fight.
And also, Dom's never knocked on nobody, bro.
I never knocked on nobody. Fast forward to it's nighttime now, and I'm assuming Mouse is having a party at Toretto house because he doesn't come back and no one goes out looking for him. Instead, they decide now is the right time to go rob another.
Finish Race Wars.
Well, they don't because they leave to go rob a truck.
They need to rob a truck.
Race Wars does not matter anymore.
This is the last one. They've been planning it for months.
Right, planning
after this. Dom and Letty are going to be on a beach in Mexico together and get married on a beach in Mexico together. Like that's what was said.
So they're planning it for months. It's the same exact strategy as the first heist. Drive up in Honda Civics, shoot harpoons.
But they're a guy short. They're a guy short because Mouse is not there.
Even though they only have 4 cars still. So they didn't need all 5.
When you said you shoot the harpoon gun.
That's true. I guess each car had to have 2 people. Okay.
Yeah.
Brian happens to see Mia arguing with Vin Diesel because, for people who want to be under the radar and not get caught, they are really terrible at hiding the fact that they're criminals. And he convinces Mia very easily, I might add, to just give up her brother. He just, he tells her once, look, they're going to get killed. She's like,
she's in love. She's in love.
Yeah, after dating Paul Walker for 2 days. Like, they made plans to go on a date. Did they ever go on a date? I don't remember now. Did they go on the date?
Yeah, they did. They
did. Yeah. They had one date. Listen, I'd fall in love with Paul Walker too with those baby blue eyes. You know what I mean?
Make your own damn popcorn. Sorry, this is the line that I forgot about.
Right, because Mia decides it's a good time to antagonize and kind of heat up the anger between Vince and Paul Walker by going, "What restaurant, Vince, did you want to take me to?" And he goes, "Oh, that's stuff with the little things on that,
with the shit hanging on the walls."
And she goes, cha. Yeah, you could take me there. Which I'm like, that's fucked up, dude. If I was Paul Walker, I'd be like, "Oh, you're toxic." Vince, I'm sorry, bro. Like, you have her. I'm done. Like,
make your own damn popcorn.
If I was Brian in that moment, I would have been like, you know what, Vince, that was fucked up. I'll make your popcorn for you, buddy. I apologize. I would be like, Dom, your sister's got to go, bro. I can't do with it. But so anyway, Paul Walker, Brian is now driving with Mia because as a cop, it makes sense to bring a civilian to a possible arrest, and tracks down Vin Diesel using satellite information and all that stuff. And now we get
cell phones.
Yeah. Now we get this is the big action scene, which is 4 Honda Civics trying to take down a semi-truck. But the driver of the semi-truck has a shotgun.
Yes, and a double barrel.
Dude, it's so intense though, man. Vince gets onto the hood of the truck, then he gets his arm caught. He's hanging there by his arm while this guy's trying to shoot and reload his gun.
The thing I appreciated most about this scene is that it is almost all practical effects.
100%.
Stunt driving,
practicality makes it so much more intense, and you really get into it. You know what I mean? You're getting sucked in, even after all these years later. I mean, this movie came out in 2001, and I see that scene, and I'm still like on the edge of my seat. You know, I know what's going to happen.
Like Vince is wrapped up in that wire. His arm is getting shredded. He's losing blood. He gets shot. The most impractical thing about the entire scene is that the truck driver is using a double-barreled shotgun, shorty shotgun, which he's kind of never-ending a supply of ammo for.
Right. And he only reloads, I think, like once or twice, maybe.
Yeah, you see him reloading while driving 200 miles an hour in a truck.
In a semi-truck that probably can't go past 60 miles an hour.
Yeah. Like it's wild. But other than that, like the scene really is one of the better like stunt driving practical effects type of scenes they've done in a movie in a very long time. I got to give credit where credit's due on this one.
Oh yeah, man. It's just done so well. It really is. I remember feeling so intense. So what's the word? Like I mean, on the edge of my seat is really the right way to say it during this scene. Even watching it all these years later, it was just that good. And we get basically Letty getting driven off the side of the road. You know, everything's kind of falling apart. They do manage to get Vince off of the truck. And again, it's all practical stunts. So like you believe that he actually jumped from the truck. Paul Walker actually jumped onto the truck to get him off. Like, and again, one of the best
back onto the Supra.
Anything Vin Diesel, any shit you might say about Vin Diesel acting, the scene where Paul Walker calls in the medics and gives his information, reveals that he's a cop. Vin Diesel's like that rage he feels that he wants to just fucking destroy this guy is just phenomenal. It's such a good scene. The look on his face where he's just focused and dialed in on Brian and is like, yo, I'm going to fucking rip your face off. And then it kind of snaps like his boy Vince is like literally dying, like focus on him first. It's just so good. It's so well done.
This scene and the scene afterwards really shows this. It's the first instance of family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
not even to be like silly. Like it really shows you how much he cares about the people.
No, like not being silly about it, like where because the family thing has kind of become a joke amongst Fast and Furious, but because they kind of made it into its own joke. Really? But this is the first point where you realize that like Dom only cares about the people that are in his crew, and he cares so much about them that even though he has all that rage and he wants to rip Paul Walker's face off, he knows if he does that Vince will die.
Right.
So he
lets it happen.
So he has to let that happen. And then cut to the immediate scene afterwards where they all show back up at Toretto's house because that's
Right.
home base.
And
That's where
Mouse
you
wasn't
go.
having a party.
And Mouse wasn't having a party, but he's got to go find Mouse. He's got the shotgun, and Paul Walker is sitting there like, you got to come with me. And he's just like, no, I'm like, he goes, we'll handle our shit later. Right now, Johnny Tran is looking for Mouse, and he's going to fucking kill him. And I have to protect my man.
Again,
so like, he puts
Paul Walker,
all of that aside with between him and Brian
right,
to be dealt with later.
But what always made me laugh was Paul Walker as a cop doesn't bring backup. he pulls up by himself.
Yeah.
And it's just basically like, you got to come with me, bro. I'm waiting for the backup to show up. I mean, I get it's a movie and suspend belief and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, at least act like you're a cop a little bit. But, you know, no. He pulls a gun on him.
Then,
you know what I mean? But nothing.
Mouse shows up.
And at that exact moment,
and Johnny Tran and Lance,
Johnny Tran's boys show up.
Well, Johnny Tran and Lance show up on the bikes, spray everybody down with Tech 9s.
Yeah. They hit nobody except for Mouse.
Yeah. That is
an emotional scene, though. Yeah.
Of Vin Diesel running across the lawn and the bullets just going just at his feet. He's running to try and get to Mouse, and Mouse just gets gunned down right in front of his house.
It leads to my favorite moment of the entire movie. Is Paul Walker? He's there to arrest Dominic Toretto, but Mouse gets gunned down in front of him. And when he gets up and sees that Mouse is dead, him and Dom share that quick look, and it's just kind of like, yo, we're fucking these dudes up. And they fucking get in their car. Oh man, the way Dom walks back to his car, Paul Walker jumps in his car, and they take off. It's so good. I get goosebumps right now.
I just got them too.
Yeah,
we get the first appearance of Toretto in a Challenger. Yep. The Fast and Furious, supercharged, blower on the top, beast of a car. Like those are the type of cars that
good. It's really just the. It's funny because you mentioned before how the movie kind of slows down after a bit. Like the first half hour is just really good, really entertaining, phenomenal. Like kind of opening third of the movie. The second part of the movie, which is basically, Paul Walker trying to just kind of ingratiate himself into the group. It slows down. It's still good, but it definitely drags a bit. There's not a lot of memorable from that moment. But then the last third, the final portion of the movie is just intense and kind of a constant build up. It's such a great finale for this movie. It really, really does a phenomenal job. Just tying up all the loose ends.
The thing about it is, and you not being a car guy, this is something that there's always been a debate in the racing world and everything with like these, the Japanese style like tuner cars and these big American muscle cars, and like which ones are really better. And the tuner cars handle better, but the American muscle, like you have to spend less to get more power out of them and stuff like that. And it's really the whole time like. You're like, oh, everybody's got a tuner car. It's just like, like not one guy's got a Camaro, not one guy's got, an old school Mustang or something like that. Like it's kind of like a little bit like, and then he pulls out that challenge, and you're like, oh, yeah, here we go. Now you're about to see some shit.
I mean, it looks like
it comes out as fucking popping wheelies. It's like, that big loud.
Again, our second biggest stunt of the whole movie is Vin Diesel popping that wheelie.
Yeah.
That's like the second biggest stunt in this movie. Meanwhile, in the last movie, he drove down the side of a dam while it exploded behind him. Like, that's how far.
So they go and they take out Johnny Tran. They take out Lance. They now meet at this red light. And we get
one last
an ultimate
drag
steal,
race.
Where Vin Diesel turns to him and says, see that stoplight over there right beyond the train tracks? It's exactly a quarter mile. This is where I used to race as a kid. I'm not going back to jail, Brian.
That's such a good impression. They race, and we find out once and for all who's the better racer, Brian or Dominic Toretto, and Brian wins.
Dom wins.
No, well, Dom gets into the accident.
Well, Dom clears the railroad first.
But he gets into the accident, so
but
I don't consider it a win.
But the race was the railroad. Doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile, Chris.
Winning's winning.
Winning's winning. You never had your car.
And then we get the classic. I mean, this is the going back to Point Break inspiration. This is the classic. Dom is there. He's injured. His car's not working. Paul Walker or Brian is ready to arrest him. The cops are coming. Finally, the backup's showing up. Somehow they know where they are, even though they drove so far away. And Paul Walker hands him the keys and basically says, "Look, we're family now. I got you. Dude, get out of here." And that's the end of the movie. And, just speaking of the end of the movie, I didn't even realize until I rewatched it recently that there's an end credit scene. Did you know that? And it's just Dom driving around.
Well, so none of us knew it in the theaters.
Right. I didn't start waiting for the end of the credits
until it came on the DVD. When it came on the DVD, that's when everybody started finding the end credit scene of him driving into Mexico.
Yeah. It's a direct setup for the next time he shows up, which I was like, oh, shit. I didn't even realize that.
Well, not for the next time he shows up.
Well, the next time he shows up is Tokyo Drift, I guess, right? At the end of that?
The end of Tokyo Drift, he shows up.
Right. So the next time he's in the movie, like really in the movie, which is the fourth release.
For Fast and Furious.
Well, yeah, just so everyone doesn't get confused. This one's called The Fast and Furious. The Fast and the Furious.
Yes.
The next one's called Too Fast, Too Furious. Then there's
the
Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. And then it's Fast and Furious, because instead of being easy, let's get confusing. What'd you say?
Did you ever see the stand-up comic that goes through all the fast names like this?
I probably have. Yeah,
it's amazing because you would think that it would be Fast and Furious 4. No, it's just Fast and Furious. We dropped the those.
Yeah, it's so confusing. At least they, then they get to Fast 5, and then it was Fast 6, and you're like, okay, cool. And then it's Furious 7, and you're like, okay.
What?
And then it's Fast 9, and you're like, all right, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Furious 7.
Oh no, then Fate of the Furious. That was the 8th one.
Yes, Fate of the Furious
Fast 5,
was the 8th one.
Fast 6, Furious 7, Fate of the
Furious.
Fate of
the Furious, where the Fate is spelled F8T.
Right, and then Fast 9 and Fast X instead of Fast 10.
Why do I feel like Fast 9 has a different name?
Let's look it up. I'll find out right now. Fast and Furious movie titles. It was Fast Furious. Oh, we've got Los Bandoleros. Fast 5. Oh, it's Fast and Furious 6, Furious 7, The Fate of the Furious, F9.
F9, that's right. It's just F9.
And then Fast X.
And then Fast X. Yes.
And the next one will be Fast X2, Fast 11. Just to be confusing. But I mean, listen, all jokes aside, this movie's still fucking good, man. It holds up well.
It really is.
Fun to watch.
It's well, I don't know if it holds up well.
It holds up well. It's intense. It's fun. It holds up well. I'll give it that.
Yeah. I mean, like, listen, the CGI is something to be, something less.
You can't expect the CGI to be so perfect.
Yeah, listen, I'm remembering that it's from 2000, so I mean, but the fact that there's so many one-liners and so many memorable moments from this movie really shows why it became a big hit franchise.
Yeah,
it's important.
It's an important movie.
No, it really is. It really is. As silly as it sounds, because again, if you told me, let's take away the Fast and the Furious. When Too Fast, Too Furious came out, and I was like, they're making a sequel to this fucking thing. If you had told me that this is going to be $1 billion franchise, I would have laughed in your face.
I fucking love Too Fast, Too Furious. I enjoyed Tokyo Drift. But at that point, I still was like,
I'm not hating. I'm just saying, I would have never believed that this would have been a $1 billion franchise.
It's such a big franchise, to put in perspective, that it attracts actors, famous actors. You know what I mean? Helen Mirren wanted to be a part of this. Jason Statham wanted to be part of this. Jason Momoa wants to be part of this.
Momoa.
Well, The Rock wanted to, then didn't want to. Now he has to because he's taking L after L, and he's like, I need to make some fucking money. Charlize Theron. Luke. Luke Evans.
People just wanting guest spots. Remember, we had Pete Davidson in the last one as a little guest spot, but then You forget, like, Iggy Azalea was a flag girl in
I
one.
forgot about that. Yeah, Jesus.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like there's so many random ass like celebrity spots in these. Like, Daddy Yankee was in one of them. Like,
let's not
there's
forget
so
that Ludacris is a major player in these movies.
Yeah.
He's a hacker
Ludacris,
genius, hacker extraordinaire.
Ludacris kind of replaced Ja Rule. Let's be honest. Like, that's
not kind of. He did. I mean,
they
basically said for Too Fast, Too Furious, we need a rapper. Ja Rule, we don't want him anymore. Ludacris said, "I got this." But you know what? He owned it, and we'll get to the movies with him in it. I mean,
that's another character they never brought back is Suki from Too Fast, Too Furious.
So her picture is in Fast X when there's a scene where Jason Momoa basically says something like he's gonna take down anybody who was involved or helped Dom or whatever. In that scene, you see a picture of her, which I don't know if that's a hint that she's coming back or what. I hope, you know what I mean. I would love him to bring all these characters back.
Yeah,
Ava Mendes should become a bigger part of it if she wants to act still. I think she may retire at this point, but you know, it's such a good movie. It's worth watching. If you haven't seen it before, it's 100% worth watching. If you have seen it before, definitely go back and revisit it. It's absolutely a fun movie to watch. All these years later, it's a fun movie.
Look, if you've seen it before but haven't seen it in a while, go back and rewatch it because it's worth rewatch. 100% worth it. What's your rating?
And it's so different from Fast X and where we are now with the Fast and Furious world that it feels like a whole other movie. Honestly, all these years later, I'd probably give it like a 9 out of 10, just based on pure fun factor. I loved it. I enjoy watching it.
Yeah, I'm at an 8.5. Like, it's just fun. It's just a fun fucking movie to watch.
It's a good movie. And with that, that's our Fast and Furious deep dive. The Fast and the Furious deep dive. Let's pull up the wheel. Let me pull this up real quick.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got to see what movie or franchise we're going to
click this wheel. So for anyone who's interested to know, we're basically going to try and keep up with the new releases. We got Across the Spider-Verse. Transformers. Got all kinds of movies.
Episode might not be coming out for a while. Right. Let's be honest.
But we're going to sprinkle in the new releases with the wheel. So the next one is, let's spin this.
How great would we get if we had Fast and Furious?
We got Michael Bay. So we're gonna pick a movie from Michael Bay. Let's see what his movies are like.
Do we do another wheel from Michael Bay?
What do you mean? Because he's got a ton of movies.
Yeah, or do we just go from his first movie?
I mean, let's see what he's got here. We have Bad Boys 1. That can't be his first movie, is it? Let's go back. We're gonna now for Michael Bay. We're gonna pick the movies that he's directed, not just ones he's produced. They got 60 movies under his name. It looks like. Wait, did I just remove that? I don't want to remove that. Hold on. I just want him whatever he directed.
That's producer. Hold on. Let me find his director. I'm going on his IMDb page.
Doesn't look to producer, actor.
Director. 58 movies he's directed.
Did I delete it? Damn it. So it was 60 movies. Excuse me.
Oh, no. You know what it is? He's got a lot of music videos.
Oh, yeah. I don't count those.
Yeah. We're not counting those. Music video. Bad Boys is his first movie.
All right. Bad Boys 1, which here
Bad Boys. I'm very excited about this now.
So Bad Boys 1. I have, let's see. Armageddon came out in 1998.
Bad Boys is 95. It goes Bad Boys, then The Rock.
Show me Bad Boys here on this list. That's weird.
It goes Bad Boys, The Rock, Armageddon, Pearl Harbor.
Oh, I was looking at producer movies. My bad.
Yeah, Bad Boys 2. Then The Island. The Transformers movies we're going to cut out, right? Because we have a Transformers franchise wheel.
Transformers is like a separate wheel because that's just a whole.
So it goes from The Island to Pain and Gain. 13 Hours.
Yeah, Bad Boys. All right, so Bad Boys 1995.
Underground and then Ambulance. Yeah.
So Bad Boys will be the next Wheel movie that we watch. Wheel,
that's
not
awesome,
Wheel.
bro.
Wheel.
I'm excited about this now. I love Bad Boys.
Just as like a precursor, I'm a big Michael Bay fan. I love listen, they're dumb movies. He's not like some auteur, so to speak, but the guy knows how to shoot action, how to do explosions. He's got his like certain style. He knows what he's doing for a fun popcorn flick. So I'm amped. Bad Boys will be the next Wheel movie we do. And with that, that was the Fast and Furious deep dive. We'll see you guys on the next video. It might be a brand new release. We got a lot of shit happening, so we'll see you on the next one.